Hello, Blazor fans. Just adjusting the camera here. How are you guys doing today? It's been a long work week, especially for me. I've been busy. Got to go out to the local meetup group last night and meet up with some folks and chat with some good friends. If you haven't heard of Guy Royce before, got to hang out with him last night. He's been on the Dev Chatter channel before. We're all good friends there, and got to have some time just chatting about stuff he's working on with his data, machine learning and data science stuff that he's doing. So good stuff. Busy week for me, so I don't have too much news to go over. I've got an article or two to mention, and then I'm going to move straight into demos, which is always fun. I've got some demos lined up today with converting some projects from Blazor 0.70 to 8.0, and then we're going to check out how to handle CSS values with Blazor components, or Razor components in Blazor, or however you want to say it these days. We had some interesting conversations in the Getter channel around how to do this, and I came up with what I identified as a pattern, and people have lots of opinions on it, and I'd love to talk about those today. So we'll get into that after we start migrating a project over and see how that process works, because I have a lot of samples that are in older versions of Blazor, and they need to get moved over to the newer version. So I'll take one of those in just a few minutes here, and we'll talk about that. So first up, I just wanted to mention an article that I put out earlier this week called the Telerik UI for Blazor Grid Basics. We had a lot of questions come across with our launch of the Telerik UI components, mainly around how to set them up, and a lot of these things were in flux because 0.80 shipped, and we had to bump our rev, and we added some new features along the way. So there were a lot of changes in there. This kind of outlines all of the things that you need to do to set up a Telerik project with Blazor, and talks about all the properties that you can set on the grid and how to work with all that stuff. So if you're interested in the data grid, then check that out. It's a pretty detailed post, and it'll get you up to speed on all things Telerik grids. Next is another article that was published on the Telerik blogs. This one is by Chris Santi, and it is Razor Components' first official preview. And he's got a good review of what Razor Components is, and gives you a good outline of what to expect from the current release and what's up and coming. It's a great read. Shows you how to get up and started with a Razor Components app and what that's all about. So make sure you check that out. I'll post that in the show notes here as well. I'll get those up online after the show today. So that link is in the chat room for folks. And let's get straight into some demos, because I've got a lot of stuff I want to chat about today. And we had some interesting conversations around some of these things in the Getter channel, so it should be fun. First up, I have a project here. Let me close all these tabs out and get started from scratch. I've got this tab component that I wrote as part of the 0.70 release when cascading values or cascading parameters got introduced, and that sample is now kind of outdated. So it is in 0.70. And I need to migrate that to 0.80. And I can see I've got some warnings here in my dependencies that may not be related to what's going on with the versions. But if I open up my CS proj file, you'll see that I have I've started migrating this already. I've bumped my Blazor references to the 3.0 preview release. So that's the first step. You need to get the new latest packages for Blazor and Razor components. If we go into manage NuGet packages, you might be able to see these a little better on the stream. So I have ASP.NET Core components.browser. This was previously ASP.NET Core Blazor browser or something like that, and Blazor build. So those two things need to be updated to 3.0. One of the easier ways to go about this is to, and this is what I did here, is I just did file new project. In the case of the component project, I did, hey async coder, welcome. What I did is I did a .NET new Blazor lib and just copied my component code over to make sure I had all the right dependencies set up and whatnot. So that's another way to get started. That's kind of how I bootstrapped this up, is just copied the code into a new project. And it looks, let me back up a little bit. It looks like I may have gotten a project that is, now there we go. That's what I want. Okay. So yeah, these say ASP.NET Core.Blazor, which is going to be the wrong namespace now that this is on 3.0. So there's been some namespace changes in the latest release of ASP.NET Core Razor components, because they're the Razor component model now. So I need to update some of these references in here. So these are old 070 files. You can see the ASP.NET Core Blazor components. These are all things that are outdated, and I should get compile errors actually in here. Let's see, failed to build 2 errors, which it's not showing me in my output for some reason. Looks like I had some kind of filter running here, and it's saying some DLLs can't be found, but really I've got a compile error in here. It's not picking up. So I'm not sure what's happened here. Let me do a clean on this. Maybe this will help surface that error I'm looking for, because I know it's in here. I should be getting some red underscores up here because this is an old dependency I'm looking for that doesn't exist in this project anymore. Let's try closing this solution out. Maybe if I reopen it, it will get those errors back up. See if I'm in the correct, and I opened the wrong project. Let's try this again, close solution. I want the project I'm trying to migrate. So let IntelliSense kick in. It's darkening these up, which is odd. I wonder if I've migrated some of this over already. Let's start from scratch. Let me go back and recopy these files over so we can, it looks like I was working on setting this up, and I might have gotten a little ahead of myself. I tried turning it off and on again. Yeah, I think this is more user error than it is part of Visual Studio for a change. This Visual Studio previews have been a little sketchy, as you might expect with a preview, but this time it's my fault, definitely. I got ahead of myself. I wanted to make sure I had everything prepped for the show, and I might have gone too far and actually gotten some of it completed. I want to make sure everybody can see the process as a whole. So I need to find, I may have copied this project. Yeah, here's the old source code. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy it back over. I want to get everything that is in my components project under tabs. So I'm going to recopy all these files over and blow out any changes I had. The reason I'm working with 2 different folders here is because I actually copied the code over. I didn't use Git or anything like that because I wanted to change a lot of namespaces and whatnot in the project. I didn't like the naming convention I chose for a lot of things, so this is going to help me along the way with that. This probably wouldn't be the normal way to do everything, but I want to make sure I get these new namespaces laid out, because I actually put the version in the title of the project, and I don't want to do that anymore. Let's see if that overwrote these changes here. Let me try reloading this project. Go back and double check, make sure it should have overwritten this. Just double check this again and reload this guy. See if we get those changes up. So here's that old namespace. I'm going to get rid of that, but I'm surprised I'm not seeing the error I was expecting. So I've got this Blazor component does not exist anymore, and it looks like I'm still referencing it somehow successfully, so I need to get rid of that. One thing I need to do is I changed the name of this project. I had the version number in the title here because it's just something I whipped together on the show a couple months ago. One thing I'm going to do is just change this real quick. I'm going to do Control-RR to do some refactoring. And I've renamed this project to, let's see, what did I call this guy? This is now Component Examples, because it's a pretty detailed example of how to build a tab component. And I will re-upload this entire thing when I'm done. So this is going to change all of my broken namespaces because I copied this over from another project. And yep, I've got component examples in here. The next thing I need to do is this Microsoft ASP.NET Core Blazor reference is old, and I need to drop that. I need to replace that with another using statement. It's going to be using Microsoft. Let's see if I can remember this off the top of my head. And Visual Studio is really choking on this because it's not picking up IntelliSense for this. So I can immediately tell there's something going on. Let's see, it should be Microsoft ASP.NET Core. And it may just be components. I'm used to IntelliSense helping me, but this is something wrong with the dependencies here. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on with this. It looks like I'm on the latest version. Yeah, I need component base, but something's wrong with IntelliSense. It's not picking up the fact that I've changed these dependencies out. It's not throwing any errors. This should be red underscores here, and I'm not sure why that's happening. Let's try this one more time. I'm going to just kill this entire instance of Visual Studio out. Let's come back here, try opening this back up. The tools should help us along the way, and they're not helping us, so it's kind of frustrating. It was working yesterday. I might just delete this whole thing and start over if it's not going to play along, because I want to show folks how this should operate. We got something loading in the background. That's fine. I'm not sure why it's darkening these things in when they're not dependencies. It's resolved. So these, yeah, they're unnecessary directives, but they should not be something that should compile. Let's do clean solution. See if I can get this error to come up. These should be errors. These should be straight up errors right here. This was all working yesterday, by the way. Yeah, it should definitely give an error. So yep, it's not going to play along. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this out, do close solution, make sure it's not open in the editor anymore. And let's just start over from scratch. I'm going to say delete that entire project. I have a backup copy of it. This is the 7.0 project. I want to migrate that over. So let's do a file new project. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open a new project and try to move the old code in because it's not a lot of code. I could try migrating the app directly in that same project, but I really don't like the name of it. I'm going to have to rename it anyway. I feel like it's going to be less work if I just kind of copy the files over. So I'm going to do a new ASP.NET Core web application. And then I'm going to call this one Component Examples. And we'll go ahead and create that one. Yeah, that one, something was definitely broke, Janescu, in that CS proj file. It just didn't want to play along. I started working on it yesterday, and I backed out some of the changes so I could show folks on the show what I was doing in that process, and I think I might have hosed it up. So I'm going to do a brand new Blazor project. It's going to be client side. Hey, C# Fritz is here. Rating with a party of 76. Holy cow. So welcome to lots of failure right now. We're migrating some Blazor apps from 0.70 to 0.80. Visual Studio Preview 2019 Preview 2 is giving us a little bit of problems. So we're starting over from scratch. You guys joined at a perfect time. Hopefully the errors will clear up along the way. We're just getting started with a file new project on Blazor, and then we're going to rebuild a component application example, a tab strip example that I built quite a while ago on the show, and it needs to be updated to the latest bits. So let's get started with a few things. First of all, our dependencies are showing up correctly now that I've reinitialized a brand new project. Auth Zero Bobby, thanks for following the show, buddy. Glad to have you guys on. Fritz, thanks for the raid. Appreciate that, man. Another one. Carrie Payette, hey, how you doing? I know you. Let's see. Let's make sure this app is working. I'm gonna do a Control F5. The Michael Jolly, thanks for following the show. Oh, I'll have to check that out. Is that something you'd like me to check now, Jeff, or after the show? Yes, please. That was a two-part question. Was that a... Oh, do it now. Okay. All right. It's like my talking to my wife for a second. It's like, which of these colors do you like better, blue or red? And she says yes. So let me see. I gotta find out which mail account you sent that to. What is happening with mail? I've got 1 million followers joining. I appreciate all the followers. This is great. Let's see. So Jeff says, open my mail, check my mail. Meanwhile, I've got about 1 billion new followers, which I'll just say thank you, everyone. How about that? Thank you, everyone who's following right now. That's great. Jeff, I'm not seeing an email, man. I'm not sure. Did you send that to my progress account? Not from you. Do you know which accounts, whoever this was? The follow alert is exploding. A Twitch invite. Okay. Let's see. So that should have gone to my personal account. That's why I didn't see it. Live Coders has invited you to their team. All right. Thanks. I appreciate that. So that is... let's see if I can grab this here. So I'm not sure what I have to do with that, Jeff, but the live coder, do you have a link to that group you sent me a link or an invite to? For folks that may not have seen it before, I'd like to pop that up on the screen. It's not showing me a link to that in my email. It's giving me some instructions. There we go. That's what I want. It's giving me instructions on how to join, but it's not giving me a link to the actual page. So if you guys go to twitch.tv/team/livecoders, there is an amazing group of folks who do live streaming and coding there. So it's one easy one-shot way to grab some live content. Is just go to this page, and there's, with all of these folks, I'm sure there's somebody streaming all of the time. So as soon as I figure out how to accept this invitation, Jeff, I will pop up there very shortly. I appreciate the invite there, and I also appreciate all of the community work that you're doing with the live streaming folks. So thank you very much, Jeff, and we'll hope to see my face on here very shortly. Also, thanks for the raid. That was quite the raid. Let's see if I can pull these guys up and give some shout outs real quick, since I think the follower the shower of followings has finally stopped. Let's see here. Where is it? May have actually crashed my app that I use. It did. So I have an app that keeps track of all of these things. Whoops, that's not it. So if I miss the big stream of followers joining, then I can go back and kind of read their names back out. Carrie, thanks for the cheer. Gastrox, thanks for the follow. Partheon, Code Warrior, Perry at Digital Ox. Foashan said how. And then Don Macaside, thanks for the subscription. Wow, there is quite a list here. Thank you, everybody. Clark IO, the Hugo Doll. Let's see, Varnware user, and all those folks. Thank you very much. And the Michael Jolly, thanks for the cheer. Awesome turnout. So we just filed new project to Blazor app, and we're gonna migrate some old code into this new Blazor project. So if you haven't seen Blazor before, you might see some inner workings of what changed between the last version and this version. Might be helpful if you go find and thanks again for the cheer, Carrie. Blazor power for sure. Let's see, we've got some Blazor emojis that we can share here. Java185, thanks for the follow. Let's see, chat room. We've got some Blazor. Let's celebrate some Blazor power with some Blazor emojis. We got the power glove, the Blazor power glove. Blazor's got this 80s feel to the name. I love it. So we're gonna drop some emojis there. We'll even throw some Thanos emojis down. All right. So let's start migrating this app over. I've got my app runs, so I've got that worked out finally. So this is the file new project experience that you get right now. We've got our Blazor counter, our fetch data control is up. And in my solution, I've got the components example is the project name. Thanks again, Carrie, with the cheers. So what I want to do is I want to add a component project. And thanks for the follow.
I'm going to add a component project to this app. Right now, there's no way to do an add new project for a Razor Components app or components library. So I need to go to the command line to do this. And I'm going to jump over to this folder I have open already. Component examples is the project. I'm going to create a new folder underneath it there. And this is going to be component examples, and I'm going to call this components. I'm going to put all of my components in there. That's where they're going to live. And then I need to jump to the command line. I'm using conemu. Thanks for the cheer, Michael. It was very nice. I'm going to jump to the command line through my conemu. I have this nice little shortcut to CLI here, and I can just pop open a console window right from my file explorer. So I'm going to jump over here. I'm right in that directory that I want to be in. Actually, I need to go up a level. So I'm going to go to component examples.components, and I'm going to do a file new project in here. So that would be .NET new. And if I do .NET new, we'll see a list of applications come up. I'm going to see if I can zoom in a little bit here. So you'll see right here, I've got Blazor library. So it's Blazor lib. That's what I want, is that Blazor library project type. So let's do CLS to get back to the top of the page here. And I'm going to say .NET new. And I'm going to say Blazor lib. That's going to give me a brand new Blazor library project. And I'm going to copy some old Blazor 070 component code into that project. So let's see what was created here. I've got just a scaffolded component project. It's got component 1, which is kind of like a hello world component that I'm going to just kind of throw away because I have my own components to copy in that project template. And we also need to add this project to our examples here and give it a reference. So I'm going to do a add existing project. I could do this from the command line as well. I can't remember the exact commands for it, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it the GUI way. And I'll go into my project here, example.components, and add that project. So now I've got my project in here, and I need to add a reference to that component project. So I'm going to right click and do add a reference. Hit OK. That's going to tie these two projects together. So this is both actually. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out where that name is. That's a long name. I don't know where if it's multiple names strung together, but I'll try to answer your question here. It's is it Blazor or Razor components? So it's actually technically both. This project, component examples, the top one, this is a Blazor application because it is running client side using the Razor components model. The reason I know that is because I just did file new project and created a Blazor app. And then also, if I look in my index page, you can see that we're running on WebAssembly. So this is components.webassembly.js. That's the bootstrapper that's loading this application into the browser. If this was a Razor Components app, it would be components. I don't know what they changed it to. It would be a SignalR based JavaScript file here. So, so you think that updating the DOM with SignalR is dumb? Well, it is a way of extending the programming model to the server side. So it is what it is. Not everybody's going to be in favor of that idea, but I like running it on the client side with WebAssembly myself, but there's quite a few situations I can see where SignalR might be handy.
So this is the WebAssembly Blazor project. And then this is a components project, so it's agnostic. It doesn't have a server or client component to it. It is just the component model, so it is technically Razor components. And we can see that through our dependencies here in NuGet. We have Microsoft ASP.NET Core components, and that is our component model that we're using. This is a brand new component project and a brand new Blazor project. And just for folks that are new, I'll go ahead and show this before I start migrating my component code over. Let's go into the index page. And what I've done is I wired up this, this component project. Actually, before I can even add the component here, what I need to do is come into my view imports and make sure I have a reference. And I need to do a add tag helper. And my tag helpers are going to be in component examples. I'll just copy paste here, component examples dot components. And then I'll put a comma and say all, give me all of the tag helpers available. And now I should be able to come over into my index page and I can add this component one. Let's see if I can zoom in on that. So over in my, whoa, it's going off my, Zoom is not working with OBS here. In my Solution Explorer, if you can't see very well, sorry about that, it's component one CSHTML. That is my component that I just filed new project from the command line. So I'm going to say component. And I'm not getting IntelliSense, so I'm thinking that I might need to do a build here first. So let's try that. Let's do a build. Make sure these two projects are linked together. Yeah, I think pre-rendering on server side is with WebAssembly is going to be very nice. So I think that will be like the ideal scenario, but we got to get there somehow. So what are we up to today? I'm trying to migrate some component code over from earlier versions of Blazor to the latest and greatest. And right now the build system is giving me trouble, so it just hung. Remember, these are extremely early beta bits, so we are going to have some hiccups along the way, and it looks like we just ran into one where it doesn't want to build the project. So let's try this again. Let's do this. Let's delete this component out of here for a second. Make sure there's nothing there that's going to hang us up, and do a rebuild. Let's see. It's not getting hung this time. It's going to go ahead and go through. Once this builds, then hopefully the IntelliSense will pick up, and I can say nope. Components not coming through yet. This is probably a tooling issue. Let me try closing the index page out since we just added this components tag helper here, and come back into it. And now let's see. No, still no components. Visual Studio has not been working well with me today. Yep, it does not want to work out. So let's make sure we don't need any other using statements here. Let's try at using. Shouldn't have to do this, but we'll give it a shot. Component examples. Oh, I've already got, let's see, component examples. Make sure I don't have any typos here. Components. So I've got IntelliSense there. It's aware that I've got a link to the project. I've got a reference to it, and I'm still not getting IntelliSense here. So let's try closing that out again. I wonder if I've got my tag helper syntax backwards. It's the other way around. Thank you, Mr. Magoo. I thought that might be part of the problem. Let's give that a shot. See if it was backwards. For some reason, you don't get any IntelliSense with that. I guess it's because it's a magic string. You don't get any kind of help with it. And there we go. Component 1 is up. So that is working now. So we've got an application that is connected to our component library. And let's just give it a run to double check and make sure it's working. Thanks for the help, chat room. I reversed this one a lot. The syntax is kind of goofy on that one. I feel like it should be the other way around. And there's verification that we're hooked up to both projects. So I can go ahead and close this out. All right, now we can move along pretty smoothly, I think. I've got some old component code I'm going to drop in here. Oh, hey, Mr. Magoo, you got to go. I understand it's probably getting late where you are, but thanks for dropping in. Make sure you watch the replay. I'm going to talk about our string builder conversations that we've been having on the Gitter chat room. So I'm going to try to answer questions regarding how that came up and what I'm using it for and what other people could use it for. So hopefully that will help push that conversation along. So I've got this project and I want to remove this component from it. I was just testing to see if these two things were connected, and now that I know that they are, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that component there because I'm going to delete it from this project. I'm going to put in a tab component that I built, and in order to do that, I want to kind of clean slate here. I'm changing some namespaces and I'm migrating some old code, so it was easier for me to just start a new project and copy some of the old bits over. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to grab my libman.json, which has all my front end libraries. It's like a dependency management for front end libraries. I'm going to grab the compiler config, and that controls my Sass compilation. And then I'm going to get the tabs folder, which has all of my component code in it. I'm going to paste those in. So I've just pasted in an old version of Blazor component code. How do you handle component-based CSS with Blazor? That's something that is kind of a debate right now. And I'm going to try to talk about that in the next segment of this, which I'll do today. It's just we got to get there. I'm going to refactor some of the code in this project in a little bit, and I'll talk about some of that. The short answer is there really isn't a way to do component-based CSS right now. I personally just am not a fan of it. So I'm not going to be the spokesperson for that. Yeah, I'm going to refactor this with CSS Builder. So we'll see that in a bit. We'll talk about why I created CSS Builder, what it actually is, and what I expected it to be. And then we can talk about what other people want to do with it and how they can extend it and stuff like that. So first thing I need to do is get these controls migrated over, and then I can refactor those out and talk about CSS management. So I've got some files here. I've got a tab interface. I've got a tab markup file. I've got the code behind, and then the container, the tab set that goes around that, and the code behind. All of these things are old. And then I've got some additional resources that are being managed here. I think I might need to put my folder back. Let's try to restore client-side libraries. So I've got some Sass that compiles the CSS for these tabs, and it's trying to restore that CSS right now. So I've got I'm using all .NET tooling for this. So I've got a tool called fail to restore because that's new. I haven't seen that one before. So I'm using all .NET for this, and I've got something called libman, or library manager for short, libman. And I'm pulling in bits of Bootstrap. to compile my own version of the tab component out of Bootstrap. Now, it's failing to restore for some reason. I don't understand. It says failed to download. I think it may be the actual problem may be with the destination here. So I'm going to make sure I have the folder that it's supposed to drop these files into. And it's supposed to be going into content. And we'll go ahead and add the Bootstrap folder under there as well. Even though I feel like it should do that on its own, but we'll go ahead and make sure that it's got everything it needs. Then I can try to redo this. Let's do restore client-side libraries. See if this gets hung again. I may need to regenerate that file. I think that version of Bootstrap should still be available. There it goes. Now it looks like it's working. So that's that libman is how I'm getting my Bootstrap files. I'm grabbing the Sass directly from a CDN or a package management endpoint called unpackage. Let's see. So we'll talk about component-based CSS in a little bit. And where it fits and why my opinion's different from most people, it seems to be. Yeah, a lot of people are still using Bootstrap. It's still one of the go-to libraries, especially in the .NET community for ASP.NET. It's what all the file new projects for ASP.NET MVC and ASP.NET Core use. So I usually just default to that for most of these demo projects because it's something that there's a very wide audience that understands what those things are. There's nothing wrong with Bootstrap. It works pretty much the way it should. Then I've also got, besides libman that pulls in the Sass files, I've got this compiler called Web Compiler. That's a .NET compiler for Sass, and it is able to compile these Sass files. So I should be able to get a Sass compilation. I should have a tabset.css file that gets dropped. I'm not seeing it, so I'm wondering either if that file is hidden, it doesn't seem to be, or my compile isn't running. Let me try a build. Let's see if build kicks off. Yeah, it wasn't able to do that. Let's see if I've got task runner in here. Task runner explorer is finding no tasks found for this project. So that might be part of the problem. So that I might need to create a new oh, I know what I haven't done. I don't have the dependency for Web Compiler in here. So I need to add that. That was in my old project. I haven't migrated that over yet. So I'm going to come in and in my NuGet package manager, I'm going to grab build web compiler. So I can just start typing this. It should come up. Let's see, web compiler. There's one specifically called build web compiler that I need. This is my my .NET tool for building Sass. So I don't need to grab something from the NPM world to do Sass compilation. I can use that, and immediately there's my compiled Sass file. So it saw this compiler config, and it immediately grabbed the Sass that was available, compiled that to CSS. That's what I like to see. So I've got my CSS there, and I've got a pile of errors in here, and these are expected. I was trying to do this before the raid, and this wasn't working properly, so I'm glad to see these errors are actually coming up now. So what I have is an outdated namespace. So I've got using Microsoft ASP.NET Core Blazor. They changed the namespace. Actually, I'm a fan of Gulp. So Goran, that's one thing that I do like is Gulp. I like I like the fact that it's kind of a functional style of programming. It's very easy for me to understand and read. Webpack, on the other hand, can't say I'm a big fan. I'm not saying it's a bad tool. It's just not productive for me. Some people work wonders with it, and that's great for them. I always seem to have trouble with Webpack for some reason. It just seems kind of clumsy to me. So I need to fix this namespace issue. The new namespace is pretty easy to see if I go into my NuGet packages. It's Microsoft ASP.NET Core Components. So I need to change this out. So this is now Components, and that should clear up that. Also, this namespace is wrong. I copied this from another project, so I'm just going to do a refactor, and this is going to be called Components Examples, and that should fix that. So component examples. Let me make sure I get this right. This is component examples, not plural. So just doing a quick refactor to just fix a namespace issue there. That was my own problem. Now I can go on to these other dependencies that I have to fix. This should go away, I believe. Let's see if I can get rid of this namespace here. And then I should be able to add that one. And another thing that they changed from 07 to 08 is Blazor component is now component base. So I'm going to have to change out this this dependence or this inheritance here, and it's now going to depend on component base. So there we go. You see that light up. So Blazor component is now component base. So this is where things move to Razor components. And that question that came across earlier, whether I was using Blazor or Razor components, 070 was before Razor components was really named Razor components, and they extracted out Razor components from Blazor into just ASP.NET Core proper. So that's where you're seeing these refactorings come in, is I'm taking and I'm moving this component model out of the old Blazor style of naming conventions into the new Razor components model. So again, I can drop this one, I believe, and just go straight to components here for my using statement. And again, it's not a Blazor component anymore. It is just a component. So we inherit from component base. That fixed another error. Looks like I have one more in here. Nope, this is generated code. We can jump out of that. If I can figure out where that generated code is coming from, let's do rebuild, make sure that something's not just kind of sticking. Web compiler's running again, that's good. And I want to jump over to my errors. No more errors. So I think I've completely migrated this project from 070 to 080. So I'm pretty sure that's going to fix everything for me. The next thing I want to do is migrate over the example project that I have. And I'm going to do a copy paste again because I'm changing the namespace and everything. This was the namespace here. State has changed. Blazor 070 app. So it's not a 070 app anymore. I don't want the version number in there. So I'm just going to copy over a bunch of my code to a new project and just start from fresh. So I need my pages. I need my Sass. I need my services. I'll grab my W root. I want all of my application code here, my libman file, and we'll leave program and startup CS alone because there may have been changes in there, and that should be good enough. Let's see. Hopefully they didn't change too much to where I'm breaking a bunch of stuff. Yes, we'll hit yes to all these, and we're going to overwrite some things, and things will break. For the most part, though, I think I'm going to get all of the code that I need, and it looks like that's done. So now I've got lots of pages in here. For the most part, these should not have any real references in them, and there shouldn't be any code changes that need to happen in here. Let's just double check our Sass. I need to do that same thing here. I need to add a dependency for the Blazor or for the web compiler. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. So I'll search for web compiler. Again, this is a build tool for Sass. It also does CoffeeScript and some other JavaScript-y things. I mainly use it for Sass. So I'm going to bring that in. Looks like there are some errors finally coming up. So I think layout, there's some stuff with layout that changed between the two versions, so I may need to go in and fix that. Let me see if my CSS is compiling. Looks like I'm good with my CSS files. So let's see what our errors are. So this is all migration stuff that we have to deal with. And build for each disabled CssHTML. I'm not sure. Looks like these are all saying there's a layout issue. Main layout does not exist. Either I didn't copy it over. Oh, yeah, I didn't copy my shared folder. That's what it is. I'm missing a whole folder here. So I want to copy my shared folder over, and there still may be some errors after that because I think there's some migration things that are going to be holding over on that. I'm just going to do a quick clean and build. So I know there's lots of gotchas in here. Migrating things is never perfectly easy. Looks like lots of errors, but they're all kind of falling into one type of category for me here. Shared main layout. I think there's, yeah. Blazor layout component is one of the namespaces that changed. So this is a good learning moment here. If you're looking at older Blazor code, you will see Blazor layout component. I'm trying to remember what the namespace is. I'm going to guess it is just layout component now. Let's see if this clears it up. I'm still getting some undersquiggles here. So let's see if I can remember. Component. Nope, that's my components folder. If I go directly through these namespaces, I can probably find it. It's going to be ASP.NET Core components dot layouts dot layout component base. That may be it. See if layout component base does the trick. I can remove. This was just me searching for it, so I can remove all that. That looks like it cleared up a error down here. There's still many ones. Nope, that didn't work. And we have dogs barking. It's officially a Twitch stream. All right. Let's double check with, maybe I shouldn't have deleted all my old code. Layout component base should work. All right, so let's put that back. Not sure where. It's saying I'm missing a reference. Missing a namespace, layout component base. I know what it is, I bet. My view imports, I have messed up completely. I probably should have kept the original view imports from the file new project I ran. So Doc, if you got a good reference to post, I will definitely give you permission to do that. Give me 1 sec here. Let me figure out where my chatbot went. Let's see. So Doc, that should be able to give you permission to see if that'll let you post that link. I think you're trying to help me out there, so I appreciate that. So this is where I'm having an issue. I should have kept the view imports because there's a lot of references that were made in that file new project that I just deleted. Instead of trying to figure out what all those were, I'm going to spin up a new Visual Studio instance just real quick to grab those namespaces out. So I'm just going to do a new project real quick. I'm going to do ASP.NET Core Web App. Just call it Web App 1. I'm going to delete this when I'm done. I'm just going to grab the view imports file from there. I probably jumped the gun a little bit and overwrote that view imports file a little too quickly. Got a little copy paste happy. So we'll just see where mine is different. So if I go in to view imports, I want these namespaces. So there's this is actually good information though, because you can see the old namespaces now. We'll paste these up at the top, and we'll do a little comparison here. So HTTP is the same. We can get rid of that one. This is the big change here. So this was the layout namespace. So it was ASP.NET Core Blazor layouts. Now it is component layouts. So that is one of the references we needed to update. And then we've got this routing, which is kind of the same thing. They just replaced Blazor with components. So I can drop that. The interop stayed the same, so we can keep that one. This is just my undoing here, so I can I need to reference my app instead of the one I copied and pasted from. Component example should be the namespace, and I can repeat that for this as well as this. And did I type that in wrong? It's still giving me an underscore, so component examples, it was pluralized. So these are, oh, nope, something's still unhappy here. There may be something in my app that I broke, possibly. And I'm just going to reference the file new project version just to make sure. We don't need, looks like we don't need that app reference anymore. So let's see if I can remove that. So that was something that was necessary in the previous version. Let's see if we can get away without that. And that shouldn't be app shared. That should just be shared if that's necessary at all. And there goes a lot of underscores out of there. This one needs a change as well. There's our component reference. So that should fix all of the view import stuff. I'm just going to check this real quick to make sure there weren't any changes in the router or the app component. So in this web application 1 example, I'm just going to double check here. That looks about the same. App assembly, type of program. So they changed from quotes to no quotes. That's kind of funny. I don't know if anybody saw that while I was toggling from one to another. So in Blazor, quotes are optional, and apparently this is a debate within the ASP.NET Core team. So if you look at, this is the version, this is 070 on this line. This is 080 on this line. So that's kind of funny. They added quotes. Somebody added quotes. So the internal debate continues. The quotes aren't necessary, but we'll go ahead and drop those. I just think that's kind of funny. These errors that are CSHTML.g.cs, these are generated. So we need to go to find the root of the problem on these. Looks like they're all generated code issues. So let's try a clean again. Sometimes when we're changing out these namespaces, a clean will help resolve some of these things. We'll do a clean and rebuild, see what kind of errors we get. So these are some of the issues you might run into if you're migrating older examples over. That clean and rebuild did it. So that seems to have actually cleared up all of the issues. So we've successfully migrated this entire app over. Let's see if I can run it now. This will be the real test. See if this will run. And then once it runs, we can start refactoring with a fun little piece of code that I came up with this week that seems to have sparked some debates on the Gitter channel. It looks like I've got something broken still. So let's see. I've got an error in here. Blazor.server.js. There's one more migration thing that is catching me. So in the bootstrapper, in www.root index, if this is your first time seeing Blazor, this is probably giving you some insight into things that that are kind of deep dive, but they're good pieces of information. So there's a bootstrapper that's in your index HTML. And apparently this was actually a server-side project that I'm migrating over. So this was a Razor Components server-side app originally. So I may need to, when I did file new project, I did Blazor, but I actually have a Razor Components app, so this might break some things. But the bootstrapper is different, and we can see that again if I go back to my reference, file new project reference, and I go under wroot index. This is now components.webassembly.js, and it would also be components.server.js if it was server-side. So let's try to change this out. Since I was running on WebAssembly, let's see if I can go ahead and do the WebAssembly version here. And let's see if this loads up. There we go. We're missing some CSS, which is fine. But it looks like all of the application is running, so that's good news. So that was the last migration piece. So if you're doing any migrations, there's several places you're going to have to look. Namespaces are a big one. Speaking of namespaces, let me change this real quick to component examples. That is my last holdout for my old project. So there's lots of namespaces that changed. Even in the JavaScript namespaces, there's been some changes. So those are things to be aware of. Layout, class names changed. The Razor Components class names changed. Lots of moving pieces, lots of breaking changes there. So let's fix the CSS issue. I need to look at my compiler config again. And what I should be outputting to is a folder called CSS/bootstrap. which I don't think I have that that folder under. Oh, there we go. wroot bootstrap. All right, so it is compiling. It is compiling my CSS, which is good. What I need to do is add a reference to this version of my bootstrap and remove this one. So now I've got a reference to that CSS file that I need to use. That hopefully clears up that last error. Let's see, I've got a question about layouts. Let me get to that. One second, and I've got some tabs to close out here. With layouts, you can now set more layout components, I guess. I know you can swap them out. I guess I need to do some reading on what's changed there. I'm still having some issues here. Let's see what is going on with my CSS styles. Something is still missing. Let me try to empty cache here, make sure it's not a caching issue. All right. So I do have a link to my CSS style, but I'm not styling my tabs for some reason. I know what this is. In Blazor 070, if you have a components, it's actually going to be a migration issue. If you have a components project and you reference that components project in an application in Blazor 070, it will automatically bring in the JavaScript and CSS that's required for those components to work. In the latest version, that is broken. So in 080, those the items that are under content do not automatically get copied over. So I'm going to have to manually move this for now, this tab set CSS. I'm going to have to drop this in here and then reference it in my index page. So that's not automatic right now. So my tab set CSS files are missing, was the issue. Let's see if I can just hot reload this, and let's try this one more time. I'm still not getting those styles for some reason. Let's try to rebuild. I don't know why this would matter, but sometimes it does. We'll go ahead and rebuild this guy out. And Control F5. Still missing a style sheet somewhere. I should have these blnav namespaces or class names, and they didn't seem to come over. So let's double check here. I've got a reference to tab set. Let's make sure tab set is fully compiled. Let's see here. Looks like we have all of Blazor, or all of, yeah, there's something wrong with that CSS file. Something's not right in there. Let's see. I believe I overwrote some config files is what happened. So I'm going to go back to my old project. And this is going to be user error on this one. I've got my component project, and I had customized a bootstrap. I have a custom bootstrap file in here. So I'm going to copy this over to my bootstrap Sass folder. Just copy that, and then let me open it up, and I will show you the customization. I have a, oh, I need to copy that as well. So I have a custom tab. I've inherited, so there should be BL tab, BL nav. I inherited some styles from Bootstrap using Sass. And I forgot, whoops, I just dragged that into God knows where. All right, so I've inherited some things from Bootstrap and reused them. So I have this BL nav Sass file and some custom Bootstrap file. I probably should have named this something so it didn't accidentally get overwritten. That's exactly what had happened. It got overwritten and it didn't build properly. So those styles never got generated. I should be able to rebuild this and it will begin compiler config.json. And then I can check my tab set and it doesn't look like that worked. Don't know why. So let me delete this. And then I will rebuild it. It rebuilt on its own. There we go. It rebuilt it correctly this time. I can tell because my CSS class is in there. So good. Worked through that problem. I got to copy this back up now because, again, it's not automatically doing this for me, which is a current bug. So I'm going to go ahead and replace those and rerun. And now I should be able to get those tab styles up and success. So my tab component is now working. I've got a couple different variations of how you can interact with the tab and data binding and all those things. Next thing I want to do is refactor some code. So this is this I think is going to be a fun discussion. Feel free to chime in on the chat room and let me know what you think. Let me give a little primer, I guess, first. I'm going to close all this out. And the scenario here is I have my tab set. So if I go under tabs and I look at my tab set, I actually want my tab component. Let's see if I've got the right one open. There we go. This is what I want to focus on. Close all but this. This is my tab component. So when I say this is my tab component, I'm referring to an individual tab. It's actually the tab header right here. If I inspect this, you can see that this is an anchor tag that is nested within a list item. So I have a class of BL nav item. Underneath is BL nav link. BL's for Blazor, by the way. It's just a namespace. BL-active. And if I tab through these, you'll see that that just changed to link. If I go back, it's active. I can disable tabs. So if I look at this one's going to be nav item, nav link, BL disabled. So I'm toggling these states on this component. And right now that's being handled through this class attribute here. And BL nav link is static. It's not going to change. Something that's always going to be there. These other classes, this active CSS class and disabled CSS class, are conditional. So whenever the tab is active, then it renders another class name, BL active. If it's disabled, it renders BL disabled. For all intents and purposes, I believe you can actually have both of these render at the same time. You can be active and disabled, depending on how that tab was disabled. If it's programmatically disabled, I believe that they still can be active and disabled at the same time. So that is what it is. There are components that I've worked with that have even more of these conditional classes. Another thing that I'm seeing is this class is being there's the ability to add a custom class here. So you'll even have, let's do that. Let's go to the component code and we'll add a parameter. So let's just go up to the top of the stack here, right under this cascading parameter. We'll add that in just to see what that would look like. So it's going to end up being a string, and it will be my class, let's say, or let's see. I think we can actually call it class, even though that's normally a reserved word. We can still use it in this context. So this would actually be class. So this is the user developer that's consuming this tab component. If they wanted to add their own custom class to the tab, they could do that. So you get this situation where there's all of these things that end up falling into this class that is on this element. Now, one of these things is user supplied. This one is static. This and this are conditional. And the way they're handled is that when I have a certain flag set is active, I have this ternary operator that says if it's active, then render BL active. If it's not, just give me back an empty string, and then we'll set that to active CSS class. Then that field gets bound to the actual class attribute. The same thing with disabled. So I've got these two things that are bound inside of this class tag. So there's kind of a disconnect to where these pieces of code show up between where they are in this class attribute. It's semi-confusing. I've seen in this, all of these things are perfectly acceptable at some level. Not saying that there's a right or wrong way and I'm doing it the best way. I'm just showing different approaches to this. I've also seen the logic placed here instead of in the actual back-end code here. So there will literally be something in here to the effect of at, and then there'll be open parens, and it's active is active, and then that actual same code is in here where it'd be BL active. So it's going to return the string directly in line here, like that. Oh, I got my ternary operator all goofed. But it'd be something like this, and hopefully you guys get the idea what's happening here. So I'll see it like this as well. So people handle it this way, right in line in the code, in the class name. So that's two ways now that I see people handle it. Let's actually make a little cheat sheet here. So one way is to handle it like this. Let's open a Git, or not Git, a Markdown file. Just want to kind of show where the confusion's coming from. So one way is to add things like this and reference them in the code. So there's number one. And number two, I've seen people do this. Okay, that's two ways I've seen people handle this type of code. Another one I've seen is that in here, all of the things will be compiled into a single string. We'll call it class to render. That name could be anything that you would like, but class to render I think is fine. I think that's a good naming convention, so we'll go with that. And then you'll see some open parens and class, which, let's see, that is, I want, so it's going to be at class, I think. Nope, IntelliSense is not happy with that. I want that guy there. It is interfering with, oh wait, here we go. This is probably it. Yeah, there we go. Class plus, and then there's we need a space. So we're gonna put a space here, plus, we need the constant. So the static item here, we've got BL navlink goes in here like this, and then if it's active, we want to add that in there. So you can see like how this can kind of get messy as well. So we end up with we either have an inline if statement here or something to the effect where let's just pull in this operator here and say maybe that's in line, and then this gets messy really quick. So we'll leave it at this just for the sake of an example. This is without conditional things, and then we need to call a trim on this to make sure that we got any spaces that were left hanging out of there. So this is yet another way that this can be handled. So we'll throw that in our notes. So we've got 3 ways now. And if you're working on a project where you've got multiple developers and multiple components, and you're jumping from one component to another to try to help build these things out and solve problems, you can see that these things can vary from developer to developer as to how they're tackling the same issue. So I saw this kind of popping up, and just looking at code of my own and other community projects and things that I'm working on, I've seen at least these 3 patterns, if not more, spring up. Again, there's no wrong way to do these. I would say that this is probably my least favorite, is putting things in line, at least in that manner. So how can we alleviate this pattern? Like, how can we make this something that can be standardized? And if we go into a new project and we look at it, we understand immediately what is happening with that code. This might not exactly be apparent. It's not too bad. I could say active CSS class, a little wordy, and then disabled CSS class. And I can see that we're toggling these 2 classes for some reason. And if I look at the class code, it's a little verbose, but I can see where those get bound. So this pattern isn't too bad. We have these conditional elements, and we have a couple variables and static things that get concatenated all together. But still, it's not too bad of a way of handling it. So that was one of my more favorable approaches, but it's still not something that you can share across multiple projects and communicate really easily, because different components might have, they may have many states that they're toggling between and stuff like that, and to expect people to follow a pattern across different types of use, just using these ternary operators might be asking a little much. So I thought, what is a way to break this down into a reusable pattern? So I came up with this idea. I initially started with some extension methods. The final idea got put up on GitHub. Let's take a look. And it is called CSS Builder. The intention of this was not to make a library. I didn't intend to put this on NuGet or anything like that. There's just not enough code, in my opinion. to worry about it. And the idea is I outlined the problem here, exactly what I was talking about in the video or the live stream here. I've got kind of the same idea. You know, here's the problem. I have the markup for this tab strip. It has these different states that have to be activated. Let's find a way to normalize this and make it readable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all of that code to onParameter set. This is where this gets called every time we have parameters set on our component, and things are going to need to be changed anyhow. So I'm going to go ahead and just build up everything there. And I wrote this little wrapper called CSS Builder that has a couple methods that normalize this behavior and give it semantic meaning. So the code behind it is very simple. So we're gonna new up a CSS builder, which takes a string, which is going to be a base CSS, and then we're gonna tack things onto it. So we call add class to add a CSS class to it, and if we call add class and give it a class name, and then we use this second parameter called when, we can set a flag of when it should be rendered and when it shouldn't. So now we have a simple pattern that says add class. If there's no other parameters, then it's going to be static, and it's always added to that CSS class. If we have this flag, then we know that it's going to be conditional based on some state in the component. So here we have an active state that toggles this class, a disabled state that toggles this class. And then finally we call build, and it just concatenates a string together. Actually, build in this version of it, this latest version, I actually decided to go with it concatenates everything before build is actually ran now. This is the latest version. It's really just a simple wrapper on a string. So believe it or not, this is all it's doing. It's just taking a string and it's making a buffer. We call, when we new it up, we add the initial value to the buffer. When I call add value, it adds an item to the buffer without any delimiter on it. So the delimiter in this case is a space. So we call add value, it just adds it with no space. I thought that might be useful for putting values together that complete a single class name. And it also, this add value initializes the Fluent API chain. So what we do is just return this, which lets us call more methods on the CSS builder. So the other methods that we have are add class. And if we pass in a string, it calls add value with a space delimiter, and then concatenates the value with a space. Puts that on the buffer. The next thing we could do is call add class with a Boolean value, and if that Boolean value is true, it will then concatenate it. If it's not, then it won't concatenate anything. It just returns the string builder, or the CSS builder. And this kind of pattern just keeps going. It's got an overload for passing in a function, which can be very helpful. And then these methods kind of just chain into each other. You can pass in a CSS builder itself. So if you have, say, 2 or 3 classes that have one condition that toggles all 3 of those classes, you could build it up that way. So multiple conditions are possible with that. So it's very simple. It's only, if we took out comments, I mean, this is only, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines of code technically. And the build function basically just does a trim now, just to make sure there's no leading or trailing white space, just to kind of clean it up. So it's very, very simple and basic. Doesn't really do a whole lot other than give us semantic meaning around the concatenation of these strings and when to enable or disable them. So it helps wrap the conditional part, and it helps just make it more readable. So let's refactor this out. We're going to override. I'm not overriding on parameter set yet. Protected override. Wait. You don't necessarily have to use on parameter set either. It just helps standardize across multiple components, like where this is actually happening. And IntelliSense is just really mucking things up here. There we go. Goran, this is a .NET standard library. You could use it anywhere you'd like. So again, though, it's so simple that I don't believe it even needs to be a package of any kind. I mean, for all intents and purposes, you can just copy these lines of code out and paste them in an application. I know that doesn't sound like the driest approach, but I mean, I may put this on NuGet if people want it that badly. But the code is really so simple, in my opinion, that it's just, I don't know if it's useful to really put this up on GitHub or not. I'm just not certain yet. I'm just going to copy this code here, and I'm going to put it in my project. So I'm going to go here and say in my component folder or project, I'll add a folder, call it utilities. And in this, I'll just add a new item. It's a new class, CSS Builder. And I'm just going to paste over this. And let's see. I can remove this extra namespace and any additional curly braces that fell in there. So I just pasted this in. Now it's part of my project. I'm going to go ahead and just clean up these using statements, make this nice and clean. So now I've got these nice little wrappers I can use. So I'm going to refactor this out. I want to use that that convention of, I'm just going to go ahead and wipe this out now. And I'm going to say class to render up here. So that's going to be my variable name. So I'm going to call that class to render. So in my code behind, I need let's see, I want to do a property called class to render. And I want that to be a string. So string class to render. I'm not going to even initialize anything here. I don't feel like I need to. I'm going to say class to render in my on parameter set function. I'm going to say equals new CSS Builder. And I believe I need to add a using statement for utilities. Control period will do that. I'm going to set the base of this. So this is going to be class. So that's the one that users can supply through a property or through a parameter. So that's this guy up here. So that can be set from the outside of the application. Now I can just chain off of this, and I can say add class. I want to say BL active. So Blazor active is the class I want to add to that tab when it's active. So is active. So there we go. The reason I'm getting these red squiggly things is because I need to call build to turn this into a string. Because when I'm calling add class, what I'm returning, if you look at the signature, I don't know if you can see this on the stream. There's no way for me to really zoom in, I don't believe, on, there we go. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it says add class returns a CSS builder. So our end result right now is we want a string. So if we look at class to render, this is a string. So if we return add class directly, we're going to get a CSS builder, which is not a string. So that's where the red underscores are coming from. We need to call build to get the string out of the wrapper. Next, I want to call add class again, and I'm going to say BL disabled. And BL disabled is shown when the component is disabled. So now I've got those things. And what's nice about this pattern is I can see right here my classes and when they are rendered. So now I've got something that's visually easy to follow. And I can actually remove these guys. I don't need these anymore. So I've got the pattern established. One last thing, and I may have deleted it out already. Yeah, I did. Let me fix this. I need BL navlink, the static piece of this. So I'm going to copy that out. I can go ahead and put this back to where it was. Class to render. And then I want to add class in here. BL navlink. Notice I'm not putting a condition on this one because it's not conditional. So that's very easy to see. If this isn't apparent enough to what is happening, I can even choose to be very explicit here and say when is active. So these are parameter names here, and I can write those parameter names out if I'd like to be very specific as to what this is doing. So if somebody that has never seen this component before hops into this component and they see in here, I have a class and it's bound to class to render, they can now look at the parameter set function here and say, oh, class to render is a CSS builder, and add class is always there, and then I add BL active when this is active, I add disabled when it's disabled, and then I build it up. So Migrate says, I'm not sure I like this. It hides CSS classes entirely in the view. I understand what you're saying there, but when if you look at what this was before, it really doesn't give you much clue as to what those classes are, since they're all bound. So you're talking about that versus let's see, how can we do this and make it look nice? Versus that. So there's only really one class visible. That is BL navlink. So I get where you're coming from, but I also think that it's already kind of hidden. And like I said, there may be more. If you only have maybe one of these, it might not be worth doing all that. But let's see, could you do it as an extension method instead of adding it to onParameter set? Not sure I follow what the question is there, Goran. You could theoretically do this wherever you'd want. The extension method part is not where I'm sure I follow. So another thing we could do here as well, and then we can chat about we can chat more about the implementation of all this in a second. Just want to show off one more little bit of this. Notice I have to return build here. This just ensures that I'm invoking a trim on this. And I anticipated that there may be some other cleanup to do, but I haven't run into it yet. So build is just kind of finalizing. If we look at build, it's actually piggybacking off of toString. So build calls toString, and then calls just trim. And if there's any other cleanup, I could do it right here. What's nice about this is if I change, and this is just a feature of Razor that's really cool that I wasn't even anticipating using this when I built it, but it is a possibility. Instead of returning a string as class to render, I can return CSS Builder as class to render. Notice I'm getting some squigglies here. I'm going to take build off. So I don't even need to call build anymore. I'm going to return CSS Builder. And what's cool is because CSS Builder uses toString, Razor calls toString by default if it just gets a class and it doesn't have a string to render. It'll call toString on it. So that actually will work. So we can control F5 here. And this should build up successfully, and we should still get the same component rendering as we had before, and there it is. Let's just double check some, let's do disabled. There's our disabled tab, and just by clicking these, you can see they're active. So this, the question or the statement is about not really caring for the inline view of all this, but it does kind of put the code in the back end of the logic. I have this component stripped out to where the component logic is in another file. You could also have in this application or this component, and it's all a matter of styling choices. You could have functions here like this, and this onParameter set code may actually be in the same view like that. So that if they're in the same view, I don't know if that helps you any, makes it easier to swallow. But ideally, there's a lot of things that are being put into this class, and if I write them all out inline, it still doesn't give me visibility into what exactly those classes are and when they're going to be created. One of the things that might be driving this statement is from a designer's perspective, like how do they know what all those classes are? My suggestion is that they're not digging into source code anyhow. You should have some sort of page set up that defines for a designer what the states of all the components are and what the classes are that are in those states. So you'd have a like what do they call it? Kind of like a reference guide. I would say it'd be similar to what you see at themebuilder.telerik.com, where you have a page where all of the components are laid out on a page, and the various states of those components are visible, so a designer can see easily, either by right-clicking, or you can explicitly write them out on the page itself, what those tabs are, or what those CSS styles are. When you're building large component libraries, these things can get cluttered extremely quickly, depending on how complex that component is. So you might have a dozen classes in there where only a few are visible at one time. So this kind of gives at least a standard way. Like I said, I've seen this being used without the pattern. Let's see if I can zoom in. I don't know how to zoom in this. see view. I don't know how to zoom this. Why? Edit. I want to make sure it can be seen. Let me try using this zoom function here. I've seen things written this way, which get extremely verbose. I've seen them written this way, which doesn't give you a clear idea of when things are enabled or disabled. And then I've seen just class to render used, where all the code is still hidden behind the scenes, but you have all these concatenation things to deal with, and it gets kind of confusing. So there's the three scenarios I've seen. And then having those things vary from component to component and developer to developer can be a pain. Make CSS Builder a static class. Yeah, you possibly could. You could implement this a couple different ways. CSS Builder itself, in this version, it's a class. I considered moving this to a struct, just so it doesn't take up any real memory. Once you hit build, it's gone, since you're not really referencing it anywhere else. Yeah, if I move this to a struct, you wouldn't be able to do that. You're basically just adding a factory pattern to the existing pattern, which is fine if that helps in some way. So there's nothing wrong with that. So the idea is to just be able to call directly in with an extension or with a static method, like a factory method. So instead of newing up a CSS builder, you would essentially have some keyword like this that would just new it up, a static method or whatever to just return a new CSS builder. That's easy to add. That's something, like I said, I didn't really intend for this to become like a utility or anything to install like from NuGet, because the code is simple enough that I figured people might want to just adapt something themselves. But it's something I'm open to pushing up on GitHub, or it's already on GitHub, but NuGet, if it's something that people wanted to install directly, if I get enough feedback, maybe that's something I'd be interested in doing. So another conversation this seems to be sparking is, what if, should it deduplicate? Okay, so let's tackle that one. Should this deduplicate? So dedupe or not to dedupe. So if we look at CSS Builder, and again, I said I'm probably going to turn this into a struct. I actually have a branch up there already. This should actually make it a little bit more efficient, which means you cannot do an empty string CSS builder. So if this is a struct, essentially all this thing does is it wraps the concatenation of a buffer. So there's a string buffer, we're concatenating, and then I want to apologize here for a sec, because I heard a new follower, KV Gross. Is this somebody I know? I'm trying to figure out. That it sounds familiar. Is this Kevin that just followed? If so, just pop in the chat room, let me know. So thanks for the follow, KV Gross. So this could be a struct. Another new follower. Let's see here. So thanks for following. Welcome to the show, Carol. Hopefully you're enjoying the show so far, and appreciate the follow. Right, so we've got the struct. And essentially what we've got is a string that's used as a buffer. We concatenate to it through a couple fancy named methods. That's all we're doing. We're just giving meaning to this concatenation, semantic meaning to it. That's all we're doing, saying instead of all these plus space, plus equal, or plus class name everywhere and then having to trim it, we're just giving semantic meaning to it, which is all this does. if we add deduplication, we decide we want to deduplicate, what does that do with the code? Well, we either need to change from it being a string to an array, or a list, or a dictionary, or a hash table, or something that's a little more memory intensive than just a string. Or we need to take the string and analyze it and split it by delimiter, check, see if there's any duplicate code in there. If we did like a dictionary or hash table, we could block it that way. It may throw an exception if somebody tries to pass in an already existing CSS class. There's a number of ways we could tackle deduplication in this. My question is, first of all, the only scenario I see deduplication being an issue is if it comes in through the user-supplied class name. If I am looking at this pattern and I see this, it's pretty easy to see them as a developer myself. So unless they're coming from a variable, I don't see somebody duplicating values. I'm going to leave this one in just to show what happens if this does slip through and we do end up with a duplicate class name. I'm going to go ahead and recompile the app and make sure that change is in there. So this is our tab, and it has a duplicate value in here of blnavlink, active blnavlink. Notice it didn't change a thing. So the browser doesn't care. The browser couldn't give any recognition to that at all. It could affect your style if they're kind of in this order that I put them in. Order does matter. Again, there's some checks and balances I think we're failing at as a developer if we're not hitting this, getting this out of there ourselves. I don't think it's a responsibility of the CSS concatenation to do this check. I feel like it's either on the developers that are using the component or building it, that they don't add that duplicate code in there. I mean, you could go as far as saying these things could be unit tested, and the unit test would probably check to say if the tab is enabled, it should only have these two classes applied to it. So there's that as well. I just don't feel like it's a concern of the CSS Builder to do deduplication. So for every time somebody changes the state of your component, you're going to deduplicate it and make sure that there's not a possible duplicate class in there that essentially has no effect on the rendering or logical behavior of the component whatsoever. So that seems like a lot of CPU cycles. That worst case scenario, it writes an extra class name to the element that might be like 2 bytes that got sent over the wire that get ignored by the browser. So I just don't see that being an issue. If somebody can point out like a real failure mode that comes from that, I'd be more than happy to like figure out a good way to deduplicate those. I just don't see it happening that often. It seems like a real edge case, and the outcome of that edge case doesn't seem to be a problem. So I don't see deduplication being a thing. Again, it's more just to establish a common pattern for people to work on a component library with. That brings me to another thing. So this is specific for classes, and I've had some discussion around should it handle inline styles. So if we had, say, let's add another, let's make this a string for now, and had this be style to render, and say we had some dynamic style that got added up here as style equals style to render. Then could CSS Builder handle inline styles. So that would probably change the semantics here because we're not adding a class. But I think the real problem for me is if we have an inline style to render, that style isn't going to be a pattern of class name. It is actually a completely different thing. So let's see, a class would look like this. CSS class space. This is the pattern that we're eventually building, is we have a string, a space, and a string, whereas an inline style is a whole different set of delimiters. So a CSS style would be something like, let's say, background color, and then some value, and then, yeah, and inline styling is forbidden. I don't favor inline styling. This whole idea of inline styles brings up even more opinions of mine. Inline styles are, to me, similar to component-specific CSS classes, where the component themselves generate some type of namespacing that gets tacked on, so people can't override those CSS classes. I think this is more of the type of projects I work on. The intent is that people will override the styles. And I think other people have a different business case where the components they're writing, they don't want people to overwrite their CSS styles. I think those are two very different business needs. And usually I'm writing for the one where people are going to take the components and reuse them in different projects and style them differently depending on what they're building for. Say, for example, you're a consultant and you have customer A, B, and C. A, B, and C all have different brands, different style guidelines, but you want to use a single API surface for components across A, B, and C. If you go embedding these inline styles and component classes in your components, then you may break that behavior, or you need to do additional engineering to make sure that you're exposing customization features across all those things. So I think it over engineers things for that scenario. And I'm hardly ever building things that need to have that strict behavior. So I tend to err on the side of let people override things if they need to. There's probably a good reason that they want to do that. If you use inline styles and use component-based styles, it's really hard to do. So you end up fighting with the component to get, you end up with a lot of important, you end up with a lot of that in your CSS because you're trying to override the specificity of their built-in select or CSS classes that are built into their component source code. So dislike this approach. But again, that's my personal preference because the type of projects I work on require customization. So there's that. But anyway, the CSS or style to render, if you did want to do this, the set of delimiters is different. We don't have a class name and a space. Now we have two string values separated by a colon, and then those pairs are separated by semicolon. So instead of trying to get CSS Builder to cover both scenarios, which I don't think they cross common concerns. I think these are two very different concerns. And I've seen some people say, well, why don't we have an arbitrary way of concatenating strings and then not call it CSS Builder, call it string something. And then that kind of circles all the way back to, well, that's just string builder. So we have all those arbitrary string building tools at our disposal.
They lose all their semantic meaning, though, when we don't wrap them like this. So the idea was to give them some semantic meaning. I could easily use string builder, or I could also use, for example, here, let's do it with the style builder. I could do this with classes and styles. But what I could do is I could say list, give me a list. I'll use some fancy new stuff here. Let's use a tuple or a tuple, however you want to pronounce that is good. We'll say, well, we have a string. Let's call that the CSS, let's call it property. I'll do prop for short. Let's have another string called value. So that's the property value. Let's have a Boolean, and that's going to be called when, because that's going to be when it's conditionally displayed or not. Looks like I need a using statement for generic collections. So now I have a list of a tuple, and then I would need to convert this to a string. I need to new it up too. So we have the ability to do these things straight from code. I can say, give me a new list, and then I could use link to concatenate these things together. And I could say select, and I could do some concatenation and combining the values, and I could say where the when, so it would be, actually I'd do where first. So I could say, let's do a new list. Sorry, we need to add some values to it. This is what adding values to this tuple would look like. So it would be something like background color. This is the value of that background color. Let's just say blue. We'd probably have some proper CSS hash code in there, but let's say blue, and then we could say is active. So if the tab is active, we're going to change the background color to blue. So there would be multiple of these, and then we would call select, or sorry, where. Missing my the extension methods for some reason. I've got, oh, I'm not, I don't have link, so I need link. I might be going down a bit of a rabbit hole, but hopefully you're following along. This is how I came to the conclusion of CSS Builder is what I wanted. Because I started out with some ideas like this. I could say where, now I've got my access to my tuple, and I could say style, when, whoops, style. This would evaluate, this is the same as saying it's true. So I'm just going to say when, and then I could say select, and I could do some concatenation in here. So I could return, say, I'll do S again for style, do a little shorthand, say prop, and then I could concatenate, say plus, yeah, that plus S dot value. And then we need to close that guy off. So I'd say plus again. So, I mean, we have tools, I guess is my point. We have tools at our disposal to do arbitrary delimiters and things like that with the same type of a pattern. The readability, I think, kind of falls apart on this. Not sure why I'm getting underscores. This should actually turn it, oh, it turns it into, so we actually need to call a join on this when we're done. So I'd have to call string join,
I may not need to concatenate. Yeah, I actually don't need the second one, because I could call string join. The delimiter or the separator would be here. So I could actually call it like this. And that would build my that would build my CSS style, or my inline style. And essentially, the fancy bits of this is right here. This does all the work, and now we have an API that we can say, you know, we can just keep adding styles to. So I can say border, and then add some dynamic borders to it. I'm not going to get into the details of how that would play out, but one downfall of using a tuple is I have to return, or I have to specify some condition here. So if there's nothing that's going to toggle it, then I have to explicitly set it to true. And then the semantic meaning is kind of lost. So I just have a bunch of parentheses that go down. I'm not giving it any meaning to what is happening with these items. That's not too bad, though. So what else could I do here to make this a little nicer is instead of newing up a list of this junk here, one thing you could do is I could come into utilities. I could say add new class. And I could say, this is my style builder class. And my class is a style builder. I could take this list of tuple stuff, and I could say that is going to inherit from a list of that, a list of that tuple. And then, I know this is madness, right? Let's see, style builder. So now I have a style builder, and nothing changed. It still expects parameters like this. You could also call add, which would expect the same type of parameters. You could call it that way. So you're just calling a generic add, though. It's not calling a an add add style. You're just calling add. But I mean, I guess it's a style builder, so you might assume that if you're adding, it's a style that you're adding. I seem to have broken my where statement on that one because it's returning. Let's see, what is it returning here? It should be returning a list. I'm not sure why I've broken. Should be able to call where on that. Huh, interesting. Oh, it's after the join. That's what happened. Whoops. Let's see, add there. Where's my join at? See, it's getting confusing already. It gets messy. But we could take these two, and we could come back in, let's just do it in Style Builder and say inside of Style Builder, it's not actually going to be in the class because that's just a regular class. It's a class static. We could do public static class. We could say style builder extensions, and then we could have extension methods. This, like I said, this is a rabbit hole we're going down of things that we could do. So we could take this style builder extension methods and we could say public static, and we want to return a string. We could say to styles. I don't know, something like that. That would accept this as a style builder. And then we could just say the whoops, we need to call it something. SB, give it a parameter name. Just say SB, and then we could put our where and select statement in there and do the transformation directly in the extension method, like that. What's some kind of garbage is coming back here? Cannot implicitly convert. Oh, sorry, this needs to be an IEnumerable of string. We could also we could encapsulate that functionality as well. So it would be string join, like that. See if that satisfies the method. And we need to end the method. Still getting something wrong here. Expected parenthesis. There we go. So we could develop still something wrong here. Inconsistent accessibility. So style builder is, oh, this isn't a public class. That should take care of that error. So we could build it something like that as well. And then all of this garbage goes away. This goes away. And we need to call the finalize method on this to styles. Like that. So we could do something like that as well. So we could make a style builder that essentially builds conditional styles just with that simple code as well. What I dislike about this method is if you're not, there's a lot of people that don't use tuples yet in .NET. Tuples are very new to the language. They might not understand what this is. And also, if you knew up a style builder, how do you know that this API surface is available? If you just open parentheses up, what type of IntelliSense do we get? Let's see what happens here. It's not really telling us what. It's not really telling us what is available through IntelliSense. What can we add to this area? Like, how do we know what these things are? It's kind of lost, it looks like. We don't get the tooling support that we get by naming functions. So that's kind of one reason I'm not a huge fan of this. We're also doing it, to be fair, I'm doing this through the initializer. I could also do add here like this. And I would have to move these in. We're going to get double parentheses in there, which is kind of annoying, but that goes with the territory of tuples. So we could do add like that. So we do get some semantic meaning there. We drop this curly brace off. And once again, I'm getting this error with add. So, oh, I guess add is a void. So that, yeah, that makes it more difficult. That's why I couldn't use add earlier. Add is actually a function that returns, or doesn't return anything. So I would have to name, some variable, and then I would have to add all the things. So I'd have to say var new string builder. Or sorry, style builder. Keep calling it string builder. So if I wanted to use the add syntax, it'd be very repetitive, and it would look like this. Actually, I can't even do it that way. I'd have to keep calling add independently from it. So it'd be add and add. And I have to keep setting them equal like that. That doesn't seem right to me. Why doesn't that seem right? It's inheriting a list of, I have to keep adding. I don't think I'd have to keep setting it equal. It should just add it. As a matter of fact, I can't because it's void. So what's the error then? Cannot implicitly convert void to string. Is it because of this guy here? Yeah, that was, nope. I gotta call my extension method to styles. Move this down. Sorry about that, guys. So it'd be like that. So that would end up being the final syntax for that. So yes, we can use extension methods. We could use extension methods. We could use inheritance. We could use tuples. There's a lot of ways to implement a pattern that is similar to this. This is the pattern I preferred over this. This seems to be a little less semantic to me. It's a little more involved to write. You don't get the optional when statements in there. So that was the design decisions behind how I wrote this. Now, if I wanted to create this style builder in the same fashion as I do this CSS builder, I could essentially just copy this and add some more functionality to it. And it wouldn't really be breaking any kind of like dry patterns or anything like that. To have CSS Builder be a generic string building thing, if we already have those things with tuples and whatnot. And we can even do it with just arrays or hash tables and all those things. But if I take and I add all that extensibility to CSS Builder and it just becomes this generic thing, then I've kind of taken the pattern full circle. It doesn't really need to be extensible. Just make a copy of CSS Builder, call it Style Builder, and add the new functionality to it. It's just a simple pattern, really. So you could do that, and instead of concatenating things together with spaces, you'd add the right type of concatenations you need and any kind of cleanup code you need. It essentially does a different thing. Building a style, building CSS isn't the same exact thing. They're very similar, but there's much different delimiters. It takes more parameters. I think by the time you factor those two things together, you've got kind of a different beast. But you could essentially have an API that is the same by copying this and extending it to take two values. Take two values and concatenate them with a colon and semicolon, separator and delimiter. So that's my opinion anyway. I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to suggestions that, making it an installable thing through NuGet. Right now it's just on GitHub. I'm probably going to move the struct branch into it. I feel like a struct is a little more. Let's see. We got another raid that just came in, so appreciate the raid. Let's see who that came from. Oh, hey, R. Dallas. That's sorry, Steve Smith. Steve Smith, thanks for dropping some folks off. I appreciate it. Hell from R. Dallas. Hello. Hello, the Fearware. We were just getting ready to wrap up, actually. You guys came in at the very tail end of what I hope was an interesting discussion about building CSS styles dynamically in Blazor. So the idea is Blazor is a component framework. You're building CSS classes conditionally. So in this example, let's see, it's not running. Let's pull this example back up so we can take a look. So Goran, I just see your question now. I don't know if that was a recent question or if it was up there and I just somehow overlooked it. But Goran asks about having add class be an extension method. I'll get into that in one sec. Let's let me catch users up or viewers up here on what we were doing. So we have this component model where if, for example, I'm changing tabs here, I'm setting a property on the component, which eventually ends up telling that component to set certain CSS classes on the component. So you can see if I'm on that component, it's active. And if I'm toggling away from it, that CSS class goes away. So what I've got is a clean code pattern that just simply wraps concatenating strings together based on a condition. So I have this nice API surface that I can call add class with an optional parameter that tells me whether I should or shouldn't add that class. It's similar to string builder, where you have a string builder.append, but this has a conditional version where I can call append when there is a condition met. So in this case, if you're toggling active or disabled, those classes are toggled as well. So that's the general idea. Goran is asking if add class could be an extension method. If I look at CSS Builder, the add class could very well be an extension method if you wanted it to be. I'm not sure what the benefit of making that an extension method would be. If you wanted to extend what is already here, so you could put it directly in the HTML instead of doing it on parameter set. So if you wanted it to be here instead of on parameter set, I don't think you would need a extension method to do that. I think what all you're trying to avoid there is calling new, maybe. So you could up here say new CSS Builder style, like that. Let's see if I have a proper using statement, if that will clear it up. Is that the issue? Well, it's inheriting from tab components, so it should already be there, right? Quotation marks must match. Oh, is it the quotes that's throwing it off? because let's kill this one. That should work. Namespace could not be found, so that's not how using statements worked, I thought, but we'll go with it. CSS Builder. You should be able to do this in line already, though. I don't see my using statement in here at all. That's odd. Oh, no, there it is. Component examples, utilities. So I need to pull this using statement into the view. Like that. Forgot my @ sign. So there we go. So we don't really need an extension method specifically to do that. If you wanted to add a builder pattern, like a method that news up a CSS builder, a static method that just you can call, you could add that. It wouldn't have to be an extension method either. Just avoiding new though, like not sure if you really want to go down that path. I don't know what I mean, I guess it'd be a matter of opinion. Let me see if I can find the code here. You could add a method you could add a method like called start or something like this. Kind of, I think this is kind of a anti-pattern, but yeah, you could say start or something like that. That returns a new string builder, or sorry, not a string builder, CSS builder. And then we want a value. So if you wanted to start it with a value like that, you could say that. Whoops. Now, not value tuple, just value. Pipe that in properly. There we go. Public static. I need to return CSS Builder. So this, I mean, this could be an extension method if you want it to be. We have control over the object, so there's no real reason to use this extension method, in my opinion. But if you didn't want to have new here, you could do that. You'd still have to call CSS Builder, CSS Builder dot start, like that, if you didn't want new in there. If for some reason you're adverse to the word new. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that to sound condescending either. I'm saying if you don't want to see new in your markup, that's a way you could do it. I just feel like having like a factory pattern for this is kind of I don't know, possibly a code smell of some sort. But you could just continue off of there. I think this might get a little overly verbose again, though. I think the idea of putting the pattern in code is to get the markup to not have this big chain of garbage in it. So again, it's probably a matter of personal preference, but I don't think I'd like to see it up here. So you'd also have to have your logic in here again, is active, like that. That gets pretty lengthy. Nice thing about HTML is you could start a new line like this. If you wanted to have it all right there, you could. Yeah, you could write it that way. So for all intents and purposes, I think the extension method thing might be coming from the idea that you want to continue that fluent API chain. The API chain is actually coming from the fact that this add value method returns this, and that kind of kicks off the chain of CSS Builder just returning itself over and over, which gives you that same API feel as an extension method does. Since we have access to this and we don't need to extend it externally, you can just write up, you can write it up that way. So you could call start whatever you'd like. So that's how you could do that, and that would work on the component level, the code behind level as well. Instead of having new class, you could say CSS Builder .new, or sorry, start. Essentially the same thing there. So that's just more syntactic sugar, I think, is all that is. So you could define those either place you'd like. We could run this as well just to show that that actually does work. I would like to unit test something like these. Well, we can unit test this bit. I do have unit tests up on the GitHub page for that, to make sure that the class that we expect is being rendered. So this looks like it's all still working even with that new method in there. It's that factory. This is more of a factory pattern, I'd say. Let's see. I wonder, I don't think we can, I think this is invalid if we try to call it add value. Yeah, that conflicts with this here. I'm trying to see if there's a way to make it even easier. Actually, it wouldn't be add value, it'd be add class, but still that's going to conflict with this other. You could call this like begin class or something like that. Right. So I'm not. If all we're doing is avoiding writing new, I'm not really a big fan of that. So I'm gonna take that guy out. Put this back. Like that. Does anybody else have any questions around how this works, or wants to try another version of it or something like that? I'll take a couple questions. Otherwise, we'll wrap up the show and we'll see everybody next week. How's everybody doing out there? Did we cover things that people were interested in? Is there something that you guys would like to see on another show? Is the code on the stream something that you guys can read? Is it coming through clearly to where you guys can read the lines of code that are up there? I've had some comments about changing the font size. Try to get that as big as possible to where everybody can see that well. I know I run some custom colors here. I don't know how well those come through. Those are usually for my own. It's quite visible. Good. Awesome. Good to hear. Trying to respond to some feedback. It's a bit big, actually a bit big. Sounds like a good thing to me, because I've had a lot of negative comments about not being able to read things. And when I say negative comments, I mean valuable feedback. Maybe stream at 1080p. Yeah, you'll have to complain to the Twitch folks about that. So in order to make that happen, I have to be amazing like the wonderful Jeff Fritz, which he streams several times a week and has hundreds of followers per show, which has gotten him access to Partner. I personally just don't have the time to stream that often. I don't think I'll be able to make Partner to bump the stream up to 1080p, unfortunately. So that is a Twitch limitation, I'm afraid. As much as I'd like to stream at a much higher bandwidth, I can't. Let's see. Trying to work on the video feed. May get a new camera here pretty soon. I don't know how important it is for y'all to see my mug. Try to get that cleared up. I got some new lighting and whatnot. So if you guys have any feedback on the show, let me know in the chat room. I also have a GitHub page. Let me pull that guy up, put it in the chat as well. Since we had some new folks, I'd like to hear feedback. If you have anything that that you'd like to add that you don't want to put in chat for some reason, you can file an issue on my GitHub page. We were talking about show length. I think I've gone over what most people have recommended so far because we've had some new people join later in the show today. But usually this is about an hour to 2 hours long. We have some new segments at the start, and hopefully you guys join us again next week. I will let you all go enjoy your weekend. I'll post show notes on my website. I'm a little late on getting some of these done. I've been very busy this week, but I will try to get those up as soon as possible. I have two weeks to post. Usually I have to wait for the YouTube videos to get uploaded before I can do that. But I'll get those up and get the show notes posted for everybody and put samples. I'll push this GitHub repo up as well with the tab example. The CSS Builder is already up on my GitHub page. You can follow that initial link there to the show feedback and find CSS Builder as well. Let's see, it would be nice to automate the manual move CSS files to component projects. Yeah, that, so that question or statements regarding when you build a component, it should automatically copy the CSS into the project and where you're using the component. That was a breaking change on Blazor 080. And I don't think it was an intentional one. So it's a bug. Now, it's nice to have that feature for some one-off things. I think on a larger scale component libraries, I'm not sure how useful that is. I've given feedback that they should allow us to toggle that behavior. So if you add components to your app, you might want to toggle that behavior off for performance reasons and add resources yourself to be able to bundle and minify things like that. But I don't feel like that is a result. This bug is not a result of that feedback. I'd like to see them add it back in so it's something that's the choice of the developer. So hopefully we'll see that happen. Otherwise, there'd be some kind of build script, Goran, that we'd need to write to move those things, or push those CSS files up to like a CDN or something like that. So that's where I'm at on that issue. I appreciate everybody for joining the show today and all the new followers, the couple of raids we got. That was awesome. So special thanks to Steve Smith and Jeff Fritz for dropping some new folks off to help discover the show. And I hope you guys enjoyed the content and the discussions around how these patterns come about. And I'll try to find something fun to talk about next week. I don't have anything scheduled quite yet, but I usually kind of fire this stuff off at the moment's notice and try to figure out what would be an interesting show for the day. So throughout the week, I'll watch for news and development along the Blazor issues and things that are filed out on ASP.NET GitHub page. Thanks for the new follow there, Dream Glass. I'll watch for GitHub issues and things, and those usually drive what I talk about on the show and what type of news segments I cover and things like that. So we'll see you guys next week. Appreciate the follows and the subscriptions and all the cheers today. It's been a really good show, and hopefully you guys get a lot of good content out of it. So we'll see you again soon. Have a good weekend, folks.